Welcome to Black Girl Say Something, where this black girl has something to say. And nonetheless, it's been a very eventful or very interesting week, if you will. But I'm just going to call this episode POV, and you'll understand why in just a second. POV is an acronym that I come to find that kind of creates a certain type of joke on social media. So POV stands for point of view. And I want to take this time to kind of go back to the original setting, the original stage of Black Girl Say Something. And it was supposed to be a place where I talk about realizations as where I am kind of looking back and kind of gaining perspective. And because I'm talking about gaining perspective, I always want to lead with a little definition, because the reality is I recognize that we're in a literacy crisis, and literacy does not mean that people don't know how to read. Literacy just means in some cases they're ignorant to the definition of words. And there's so many categories of what contains being literate and illiterate. So with that being said, I want to talk about perspective really quickly. And perspective is a particular attitude toward a way of regarding something or a point of view. So POV, point of view. This week, on Monday, last week made 2 weeks since I was post-op having my fallopian tubes removed, my laparoscopic bilateral sublongectomy. That word always is going to take me out. So I end up having my follow-up on Monday. And so post my follow-up, I was like, I'm so happy, I'm grateful that I'm cleared to go, to work out, but I'm starting slow. And if you've been here for a while, you'll know September is typically when I start my mile-a-day sleigh, because walking and being outside and getting that sun on your skin does, help combat seasonal depression. So this is year number 4 where I'm like, yeah, the girl has been walking, honey. So I'm back walking. And so Tuesday I had court. Not going to get into details of that, but it was just a checkup, sort of like a case management. And then moving right along after that, I was like, I'm going to go for a walk, because anytime I have to go to court, it does trigger my nervous system. And then I'm like, okay, I need to work out. But because I just got cleared and I don't want to do any heavy lifting, I was like, walking is always going to be beneficial. So, and then I had to go to work. And so then Wednesday, I started back working this after school program. I haven't worked with them solid for a year, but in the last year I would just cover as a substitute. So that's where I work with K through 12, or actually it's K through 5 students. And I get there and I'm supposed to have 15 students and I have 30. And I was like, oh my God, okay, this is off the chain. And I didn't have enough supplies, but because I have great classroom management, I was able to change my perspective on how I was going to handle things. I was also able to change the people who are at this location's perspective as well, because they're like, oh, you're one person, how are you going to handle 30 kids? And I'm like, I have great classroom management. Anywho, moving along from that, there's been some back and forth, whatever. My kids are supposed to call their dad. That ended up not happening on Monday because I didn't have the information for them to call him. There's a mix-up in communication, whatever the case may be. But my son also signed himself up for a STEM program at their after-school program. So I'm like, yeah, they're not going to be able to call on time, but they'll be able to make the call, and I just want to be able to do things by the book. And I think in this retrospect, or in the perspective of the POV, the point of view, is that I want to actually do things by the book. And because I want to do things by the book, it's coming off as if, I'm the problem. But why is that the POV? It's because the intention of the other person is not to do things by the book, right? And essentially, let's move along to Thursday. So Thursday, I have class. I teach class on Tuesday and Thursday, and I'll give you 2 different perspectives real quick. So we're at the point in sociology where we're talking about poverty and the different financial classes, right? We have our upper class, which also has 2 classes, because over time, things have changed. There used to be a time there was just upper class, middle class, and lower class. And now under every class, there's a subclass, right? So under upper class, we have our upper class and we have our upper lower class. And our upper class are the people who come from what they call new money. I'm giving y'all a little sociology lesson real quick, so just go here with me. And then we have our lower middle class. Our lower upper class are people who come from new money. So if I was to achieve the status that I would like to achieve, my children would be considered lower class, right? Then in middle class, we have middle class, but middle class is always on the cusp of being the working class, which used to be classified as the working poor. And then we have lower class, and then lower class, they just call they're in poverty. So there's levels to poverty because the working class and some people in middle class are in poverty depending on household size. So we were talking about objective and subjective, and objective states that it goes by your education, income, social status, and things of that nature. Subjective is pretty much asking people where they think they are. And this is where point of view, the POV, gets a little tricky because perspective is what it is. Y'all know I've been in between contracts and business deals, but essentially because I own a house and I have a car and I'm able to be there for my children, maybe I don't see myself as lower class in that particular moment. But there's something called episodic poverty, which if you experience poverty, financial poverty, for a period of 2 months or longer, that's called episodic poverty. And we know that in some cases, you get laid off from your job and your job gives you a severance package. You might be okay, but eventually, if you don't pick up another job before that severance wears out, you will experience episodic poverty, a period of time where you will not have the financial means to make ends meet. Okay, so my night class, I've told y'all this before, my day class and my night class is literally like day and night. In my night class, when I said most of us in here are in poverty, one of my students was like, "Oh, not you trying to call us poor?" And I was like, "No, ma'am." I was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not trying to call y'all poor. I'm just saying we're all here. I'm here teaching you, right? Educators on every level don't make the money that they need. Most educators, especially at this level where we're at a nursing school, I'm not a nurse, but I know a lot of your professors who are nurses still work bedside. Why do they still work bedside? Because being an educator is not enough to supplement. Being an educator is just a supplement to their income, right? And so I was like using myself as an example. I do so many things, but if one of the things don't make any money that month or that year or that for a period of time, then I'm not making the income that I would like to anticipate. I say you are all here going to school. Why? Because you want to have upward mobility, which is which is also called vertical mobility, to move up in social class, to move up in financial class. So because of that, you have not reached where you think you reach. And that's why sociologists prefer the objective approach rather than the subjective approach, because most people aren't where they think they are, right? And so I just thought that was interesting to share with the POV of it all, because in my day class, they did not take offense to me saying most of us are here. Most of us here are part of the working class, right? And working class are people that live paycheck to paycheck. They get the bills paid, but they are one minor inconvenience and one major inconvenience, right? And then I also had to explain to my day and night class, which my day class understood, but my night class needed a little extra explanation for them to gain perspective, for them to change their POV. And it leads me to believe, and it leads me to not only believe, but understand and identify, which I've known for a long time, but I'm just sharing it with y'all based off of this event, is that most people do not see past their purview. Most people do not see what is beyond them, right? And so being able, being in a state right now where I've entered into a temporary parenting plan with my children's father, which is just for him to get reintroduced to even being with them, it essentially, it's coming off as if I don't want you to be with your children. But no, you haven't. I don't think you understand, like, not being with your children for a while. They're not the same 11 and 7-year-old that you left. They're now 15 and 11. They're in a different stage in their life. They're in a different phase in their life. They have different views, and their POV is so different. And so you have to allow yourself time to become acclimated with them. And essentially, that's from a doctor of health science perspective, right? Because again, if I didn't have a doctorate in health science or even a master's in health science, I would have never had that perspective. I would have never had that POV. And the funny thing about what I'm teaching in sociology is I want people around me to ultimately see what is beyond them, right? And seeing what is beyond you only happens in a state of formal education, and that is in the textbooks, right? Having some level of vertical mobility, meaning moving up, not moving down, not a decline, but upward mobility, having the opportunity to move up only happens, or mostly happens, with formal education. And so going back to the point of perspective, going back to the point of the POV, this week we also found that it was raining. Last weekend it was raining. I think that was that Sunday? Sunday when it was raining, the kids and I decided, oh my gosh, it's raining. And I just felt the urge to go feel the rain on my skin. And I posted it to TikTok, and I was just like, imagine not liking me, but I'm just over here just trying to feel the rain on my skin. I'm really just trying to, I know no one else can do it for me. Like, all of the things that the song says is what was going through my mind as I was in the rain. And it was like during the 9/9 portal. And I'm just like, the 9/9 portal, September 9th. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm feeling the rain on my skin. Like, I release myself from anything that doesn't serve my highest self. I wash away anything. Like, as I'm in the rain, I'm like, I wash away anything that is here to hurt or damage my nervous system, because it has been in repair for a very long time. Y'all have been here for a while. You know, I went through all different types of just things, right? I saw my blood work evolve and change. I saw my thyroid get enlarged and all of a sudden just go away. Like, I've diligently been on the track to healing my nervous system. And so in this perspective, I just have to do what is best for me, and I have to just show up, and I'm only responsible for how I show up as a parent. I'm not responsible for how anyone else shows up as a parent. I'm just focusing on being good to me, right? Being good to me and continuing to be in a space where I put out good. I don't mean anyone any harm, not intentionally, by no means. That is my POV. And if you enjoyed this episode, share this with at least one person. Remember, you can tune into Black Girl Say Something every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I highly, highly encourage you, if you've been listening, take some time to leave a review on the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Like us on Facebook, follow us on TikTok, subscribe over on YouTube. And as always, you know we have exclusive content over on Patreon, so you can definitely become a subscriber over there. Until next time, tune into Black Girl Say Something every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for listening.